I've noticed that those in their late 20s like me or early 30s seem to be that stage in life where they're trying to figure out who they are and be more themselves. And whilst on the surface that sounds great, it is in fact a little bit more complicated. How exactly do we know how to be ourselves if we don't know what that actually looks and feels like? Although many of us have signature personality traits, it can be less obvious if these are fundamentally us or simply borrowed from external influences. Of course, all our traits and decisions are influenced by genetics, our environment, or the combination, nature or nurture as they say. In fact, I can't help but feel that our personalities are essentially the sum of the decisions we make, which as I said, are influenced by other factors. So who on earth are we? In this video, I delve into yet another existential crisis as I try to understand myself more and see if there's any originality at all. I look at what the great philosophers found on the matter and how to navigate this journey of finding oneself, if at all possible. If you're new here, I'm Amy Claire, and on this channel I try to understand human nature, philosophy and life stories to help me make sense of life, how we all get to where we are. In my last video, I spoke about people pleasing and how I'm trying to do it less. It got me thinking about what I would act like if I were to have little or no influence. It's basically impossible, I know, but it did make me think about the fundamentals of who I am. I've come to discover a few. I'm naturally adventurous, creative, and have a curiosity for understanding the world, especially other human beings. I love art and music, but even those I know are influenced by my dad or brother. However, it's my actions, my responses that I want to learn more about. People pleasers tend to act a lot in a way that they think others want them to. After years of this reinforcement, it can be hard to know when we would authentically act or say in the moment. We often find ourselves in the shower analysing what we could or should have said, but we didn't. So what does this make us? Are we just social chameleons adapting to please others? Or is there something more fundamental beneath these layers of adaptation? I've been delving into some philosophical perspectives on this. The existentialists, particularly Jean-Paul Sartre, believe that we're condemned to be free, meaning that there's no predetermined essence to who we are. Instead, we define ourselves through our choices and actions. That's both liberating and terrifying. If I'm not defined by some core aiminess, then the responsibility of creating myself falls entirely on me. Carl Jung had a different take. He suggested that we all have a true self that we're meant to integrate with over our lifetime, a process called individuation. But even Jung acknowledged that we wear masks or personas to navigate society. I started paying attention to moments where I felt most natural, most connected to something authentic. For me, it happens when I'm creating something without worrying about the outcome, like when I'm writing in my journal with no intention of sharing it, or when I'm with animals and feel totally free of judgment, most of the time. I often walk through the woods and find myself spiritually connecting with nature. At first, I felt in awe, and then I thought, am I mad for thinking I'm spiritually connected to trees? But when I think about it, I feel completely myself when I do unleash that hippie nature girl. But here's what I've started to wonder. Maybe being yourself isn't about finding some fixed, unchanging core identity. Maybe it's about becoming more aware of the patterns, knowing when we're acting from habit, fear, or people-pleasing tendencies, versus when we're acting from our values and genuine desires. The philosopher Heidegger talked about authenticity as being awake to our own existence and making meaningful choices rather than just going along with what they say you should do. It's not about finding some essential you hidden deep inside, it's about taking ownership of your life and choices. So where does that leave us with this idea of being ourselves? Maybe there is a time for everyone where we discover our true self. Or maybe we are constantly changing, remoulding. Or perhaps instead of trying to discover who we really are, we could focus on what kind of person we want to become. What values matter to us? What kind of life feels meaningful? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this and if you found ways to distinguish between being yourself and people pleasing. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.